Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's vOLTHA TST. Sorry for the little bit of delay. We were in a previous meeting with the operators and wanted to finish that up before joining here. There's many things that we need to go over. As usual, the call is public and recorded and will be shared on YouTube. So please be mindful of the comments you make and the information you share. It's going to be public. So first of all, I just want an update and a demo from Ken and Maninder about the changes that are going to be introduced for the reason. Um, and so we can understand better what is the future, what does the future look like in terms of the reason, and what the changes need to be made to the tests to adapt to that. So Ken, feel free, it's all yours.
Okay, so this is part of a actually it would be Maninder that will do the demo. This is part of the device update changes we have been doing, and where instead of having only one change, like for example, in the case of device reason, in the current implementation, there's only one field in the device called reason. So it keeps the latest reason and that's it. So the changes that we have been doing is to keep track of all the changes that has happened to a device, to the cycle of that device. So in this demo, like Manida will show you how he's doing that and also give you an update of how you can retrieve the reason data. So Manida, are you ready to share your screen?
Yes. Hi, hello everyone. Today I'm going to demonstrate the working of device update feature. Let me share my screen. Okay. Is that visible?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So here I have a setup of vOLTHA cluster, which is using the custom image of RW core and vOLTCTL binary uh, to support device update. So let's see. My cluster is up and running right now. So if uh, serial device. So there is no device right now. Let me create a device. I'm doing this from scratch to make it sure that everything is working fine. Okay. Okay. So what I have done here is I created the device and enabled it. So changes will record, the changes I have done is will record all the update done to any device, and every update will be saved in KV store, which can further be retrieved using vOLTCTL. Like here, I'm going to uh, check for the updates for our ONU device. So let's copy the ID. And here you can see that uh, these are the updates for the operation for the ONU device. So all of the fields here are self-explanatory apart from request by. The field request by is extracted from Kafka topic from which RPC is invoked. So yes, here we can see that we have update device reason operations, and as the reason is excluded from Volt device objects, so we can use -w option that show you a extended output, which will include the description field, and it will have just let me yeah now is it visible, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it will have the description field for every update device reason operation and for every operation that is failed. In case of failed operation, description will have the error. So as update device reason is removed from device object, we can use format option and some shell commands to extract device reason. Like let me copy it from here. So what I am doing here is formatting the output to show only description and removing empty line and telling for the latest update reason, because all the output is sorted on the basis of timestamp. Oh, sorry. I must have missed something.
The last quote is wrong.
Oh, sorry. Yes, actually I copied it. So, okay. So here we have the latest update reason. So this is one of the way we can extract the latest update device reason from this output. And there is one more thing that I created this device in front of you. So if you can see, there is one failure in OLT. Here, the addition of port is failed, which is not simulated by me. This might be the case, which is already happening, and we might have missed this. So this is also so device update output would also be helpful to monitor this kind of situation where we can miss any failure, which might not create any hassle to us, but yes, it is important to check whether the addition of port is replicated or we are making multiple requests. And apart from this, any question till now?
So I see that one of the operation status is operation in progress. How are this information collected? Is there like a loop that checks the status of the device?
No, actually, in this operation, while we are enabling device, so we in RW core it waits for the acknowledgement from the adapters. So when it created and send the request to adapter, it mark it as progress, and whenever we receive the acknowledgement, it make another entry with success or failure, whatever it is.
Okay, thanks. So basically, operation in progress means that we send the enable over to the adapter, and we're waiting for it to come back.
Yes, that's it.
Where is this information stored?
This is stored in KV store.
But in which structure? I mean, device or separate from the device?
It is separated from. It is stored in device /updates and / then device ID.
Yeah. It's separated from the device. It's a unique path.
Okay. Good.
Along with that, I have supported multiple filter support to filter it on the basis of timestamp. Just let me show. Like here is one of the example. So let me change the timestamp. It support greater than, lesser than, greater than, equal to, lesser than, equal to, and of course equal to and not equal to. So let's suppose if I need any operation that is done after 10 maybe 10:20. I don't have much of a choice here. Okay, so here I have used greater than sign. So the only operation done after this time is shown, and if I use something like lesser than, so only operation that would be shown is the with timestamp less than this particular time. So this is most of it, and yeah, if there is any question you can ask.
I have. Is there a
go ahead.
rotation?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, is this a rotation or cleanup procedure for this data? And it may be very big by the time.
There's no cleanup procedure at this time, but it's something that needs to be done.
Okay. Another question, maybe, will we be capable of configuring it to not to write this to the etcd, or it's hard coded and default?
Yeah, that is in pipeline. So we are going to work on it, but I'm not sure which approach we are going to use. But that, yes, that's in pipeline.
Yeah, one thing that we were looking at, originally when we started, it's really to write it to HCD because it's very convenient. Like you can see, like for example, when we do device updates, when we're looking at the OLT, we can detect like failures and like silent errors. Like today that is in a log, but here we see it a little bit more clearly. So that was the the intent.
Yeah.
But then, if we look at the total number of device updates, uh, unless we keep, we just have a routine and then we clean up the data like every day, every X number of days, or if we want to keep the historical uh, set of data, then maybe the best option is to put it in the logs as well. So that could be an option. We could have a flag that tells us write it to HCD or write it to log or write it to both.
Ken, one question. So basically, these are events, right, that are happening on the device. So why not push it to the Kafka bus as events?
And there is actually there's another Jira that's actually pushing the failure events only on Kafka, not all events.
So what would be the real use case of storing it? And how do we use this data in real life scenarios?
It will be like exactly how Maninder is showing it. If we store the data in KV store, it's very easy access.
Is this considered a troubleshooting tool? I guess is the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, thanks.
Would it make sense to extend the timestamp to include also more fine-grained, for example, not just the seconds, but also the milliseconds? Because in here, I think sometimes it's helpful to see how much time it takes for a certain operation to happen. And in here, you cannot really see it because it's just seconds.
That may be a display issue as opposed to what's actually recorded.
That is doable, and I will do that. No issue.
Would it also be possible to check with the ONU ID? So right now, can we see which ONU device has which event?
Right now, I have shown you the only updates for single ONU device, right?
Well, that should be easily doable.
Yeah, it's basically like you have the field like requested by. Currently, what it uses a topic name. So pretty much, if you have multiple adapters, multiple ONU adapters, then each one of them will have their different topic IDs, and then you will see it here.
Certainly, if your question was to query starting from the serial number of the ONU, then I think it's easy to pipe two commands. One that gets the serial number of the new by the device from the device list, and then pass it as an argument to this command.
So maybe I'm wrong. Is this ID is the ONU ID or the OLT ID?
The ONU ID.
This is okay. I'm sorry. I thought it's OLT ID.
You can query by OLT ID as well, like ONU or OLT IDs.
If you put the OLT ID there, do you get all the device events for the OLT or all the device events for the OLT plus all of its ONUs?
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm asking those questions.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, we can try it, right?
Yeah.
Maninder, if you put in Volt Kettle device updates, but use the ID for the OLT, then what does it show?
It will show the updates for OLT device only for now.
Okay.
I think that's fine because if you list all the events for all the news in a certain OLT, then you have a huge blob of data that are not relatable to.
Are there any scale implications for writing this extra data into etcd?
Yeah, that's something that we have been thinking of. Like that's the reason why we are thinking maybe we need to push that data to log or have a flag that's in development environment where somebody can say, oh, okay, write it to etcd, and in production just write it to log or even to Kafka.
Well, we can start doing some runs with these images and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely we need to have a cleanup. If we put it to etcd, we have to have a cleanup procedure. Otherwise, we just keep increasing.
Okay, so as far as I understand that the next step is to go ahead and make sure that every test that uses that reason field either removes it or checks or adds the support for this vOLTHA device updates device ID -W and checks the latest one in that output.
The tricky thing is if we have a flag that determines where we're going to send the data, then, for example, if you send the data to Kafka to the log, then you won't be able to retrieve that information, device updates, as is. Then we need to add back the device reason flag that store only the latest data in the device. So it's dependent on which way we want to go.
Unless the update, well, if we start storing this in an alternative mechanism, then vOLTHA would have to read that data from an alternative mechanism, whether that's read the data from a log server, read the data from something else that reads it off Kafka, right? It's another data source into vOLTHA. Would have to, in order to enable this event list.
Is vOLTHA able to go to the log server and
vOLTHA's designed to talk to anything, right? I mean, it already talks to both the API as well as directly to etcd in some cases, as well as calls, or can call kubectl, right? So there's no limitation there. The pattern already exists. So if there's an alternative source, this event list could be driven from an alternative source.
Oh, that's good.
But the issue of writing to an alternative source or reading from an alternative source is subject to scale performance or anything else?
Well, as much as everything is. If we're going to log this, then presumably there is something collecting those logs and making those available to search. So that would be the mechanism. I mean, we already have that problem today, irrespective of this, right? How do I search my logs? How are they indexed? So if this is going to be written to the logs, then all that is searching those logs. And if this is going to be written to Kafka, something's got to be listening to Kafka and putting it in some storage so that it's searchable. So it's the same problem.
Well, I guess my question was, when you say if it is written to logs or if it is written to Kafka, but the question is, what determines if it gets written somewhere else other than etcd?
The code. I guess I don't understand the question.
But that would be a flag, Sora.
Yeah, but why we decide to put that flag? What is the criteria for which we decide that etcd is not okay to store this data?
Well, I would say if we pick an alternative source for storage for this data, I'm not sure I'd flag it in terms of it can be stored to etcd, or it can be stored to log, or it can be stored to or sent to Kafka. It might be we send this data to X, right? So using log as an example, it would be, we've decided we're going to store this information in the log. Therefore, if you want the information, you can search the log. vOLTHA contacts that log server, whatever log server we support, and we'll search it. It might be that simple.
Yeah, but this is not the question that sort of asked. That I think the question was, why should we decide to put it somewhere else than etcd? How do we make that decision?
Yeah, and that was, I think it was you that mentioned it. Well, run the existing test and see how much this actually adds to etcd in terms of performance, and see if it's something that we even need to move. The other example I think we should check, I suspect they use etcd for this, is Kubernetes itself. You can list events. What is the pattern they're using for event storage? And if they're using etcd, maybe etcd will work for us. And it may be that it depends on how prolific these messages are.
In my point of view, we are doing a lot of transactions towards etcd during device startup, initialization, etc. So this adds more transactions to our sequence. So as I see this, I can see probably we're going to add more than 10 or 20 new transactions per device to the etcd.
Sorry, my microphone cut out, so if I missed that, I apologize. I wanted to hear your point.
So I think we have to check this, the effect of this on performance.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
I think given the volume of data, especially like on just ONU device per se, there will be a number of writings, but not a lot of updates there. But on the OLT, there will be a lot of updates, given that we'll track not just like those add ports, create device, but there will be add flows as well. So that could be a lot of writing. So I think like writing the data to etcd just for now, for example, like to show how it can be done, it's good. But I think that for production, we have to choose between Kafka or logging, and just commit to that.
Yeah, maybe I agree.
Again, writing to Kafka has a problem that it doesn't. Well, to me, it doesn't solve the problem. Writing to Kafka means, yeah, the messages are out there. Something still needs to collect them. So there's a piece missing. Right? Writing to the log, there's storage actually happening.
Yeah, I think writing them to the store will be probably the smartest. To the logs will be the smartest thing to do, because everyone will already have in place something to aggregate the logs, and at that point you can easily query those data.
If we're going to merge the code as is with etcd storage, I think we might, well, again, we can run the test and see how much data we're actually adding to the system. But we also want to probably have a caller so that we don't flood all the disk space.
Are we sure we want to merge the code as is?
I'm saying if we choose to, we want to protect the database from all database, from writing all storage.
Can't we filter out the same data using the ELK? Like we do in vOLTHA, we can do the same filtering mechanisms in ELK, I think.
Yeah, I think that if we write the data to the logs, then we don't need to add support involved cattle because we can use Elasticstack and Kibana, and that's already there.
And also the question is who will use data in production? To me, this is much more like log events. I don't think we should propagate these kinds of events to northbound systems of the operator. But when something happens, like a problem, the vendor may need to check the logs, and I believe having those data in the ELK would be much better than having in the etcd.
I tend to agree with that. It seems that this is a general consensus. Is it? I am correct on that. Or we all favor to write that data to log. Silence.
I'm personally fine with having them in the logs.
I also prefer to have it in logs instead of etc.
Anyone against writing to log?
Well, so what's the implication on our tests then? Where is the test going to, do we need more changes then to, you know what I'm getting at, Andrea? If the tests are just not going to look at reasons anymore, or the device state updates, or will the test now need the infrastructure to pull stuff out from the logs?
I would try and keep it simple. It might be that we either skip looking at this reason field at all, like we remove it.
What about if we store them in the logs, we keep storing the last reason in the device as we do now?
That would make no changes at all.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. Is it better to have a small list of events kind of in a local, store the last 10 events and then log everything?
Where it gets tricky, it's for example, in the case of renew, for example, if we enable renew when we have those device reasons that get added in the updates, and then suddenly we get a bunch of flows that get added. So I'm just worried that if we just max out to a certain number, we may miss those device reasons because they will be overwritten by that list will be written by flows.
So one thing that concerns me about the device reason is that reason, as far as I understood, it's really a uniport reason, not a device reason. So the moment we'll support multiple unis, that reason field, if we only store the last value per device, is not really meaningful.
I think if we're going to write these to logs, it just means the tests are going to have to use some mechanism to query that log. And if that's whole cuddle, that's fine. If that's another mechanism, that's fine. To get to see if the reason they expected is there.
Or we go ahead and not check that at all in the logs. In the tests, sorry.
In the tests.
Yeah. Just
Except how do you tell when the MIB's downloaded? How do you tell when the device is up, right? Because right now the reasons field is being used for that, is my understanding.
That is why I was.
So from my perspective, like that end-to-end test shouldn't really care about these internal details, because it should be, okay, did I provision the subscriber? Can I ping? Yes, no. If not, I'll go debug and see why not.
If you have the pings are working, then it should be fine not having the device reason. No need to check the device reason.
Yeah, but
also, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, but when things don't work, I would think that checking the CLI to see, okay, is there any obvious error that can help me figure out, okay, maybe I need to look at this part of the logs to see what may have gone wrong. I would think that it's a useful thing to be able to pinpoint a cause before going through logs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this reason has been very helpful. So, I mean, I would think storing the last reason would be helpful here, but, Tia also had a valid point there that we currently store it for a uni, and when multi-uni is there, I mean, this reason could be overridden by status from other unis.
After some points of the process, the reason field sometimes is meaningless, because for the things that you do more than once, for example, technology profile download, flow insertion, etc., you cannot get the correct reason field because it's only one. If you downloaded more than one technology profile, you see that the reason field is technology profile done or success, but one of them maybe might be failed. So you have more than two flows or two technology profiles downloaded, but you have only one old series, device reason.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there.
So I totally agree with Girish and Suraf. Even just yesterday, I was debugging the integration of another OLT in our system tests, and there were some failures. And the reason field helped me understand that it was not really the OLT's fault at all; it was some other stuff. And giving that away, I wouldn't be so sure. Do we want to remove it do we want to hide it behind the flag? Sure, maybe we hide it behind the flag in the device command. Would I still keep it? I would still keep it. Even if it's the last one, even if it's not maybe totally useful after many processes.
So does this mean we're going to have to kind of do a mishmash here, where we're going to keep the last event or last reason, if you will, in, let's say, etcd, so it can be quickly identified and quickly queried back, and then all intermediate events and all the transitional events are going to be logged. So you could still do kind of like what we saw today in the demo from Ender, to say, get me the reason, and it would get you the last reason per unit.
Seems reasonable to me.
So you're saying that we keep the updates in etcd only for device reason?
Only for the last update, right? Per uni. So it'd be indexed per uni, and it'd just be the last update. So we're really limiting what's there. It's not. We're not using it as a time series database. We're using it as kind of a last event that was tracked per uni. And so you can then use vOLTHA get reason or whatever, device reason, and you'd see the last reason per uni. But if you want to see all the transitions, then you'd have to go search the log.
Okay, sounds good. I'm not so sure where we'll get that unique information. today. Need to check it out.
So what we're saying is that we are also going to keep it in the device, or just have it in this new reasons command.
I might keep it in a separate tree, separate reason area, just so that we're not having to update the device every time we add a reason. But I don't know.
But then vOLTHA could query both of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I would agree on a separate tree for it, but I would, if possible, keep the output identical, effectively, as is right now.
How would that change the output identical to vOLTHA? The problem is it's what happens when you have multiple units.
Yeah, I see. Could it be a list?
Right, but then all of a sudden your output, what does your output look like? You know, right now vOLTHA is a table, or the output of vOLTHA is a table of devices, right? You can have an array as the last thing, which lists all the reasons for every uni.
It's if we try to remain the interface as is today, like I believe your tests invoke get device, and from get device get the reason. So if we're going to have multiple reasons per uni, then we have to change the photo of device in order to send that back, in order to satisfy the test scenario. But do we really need to do that? Or do similar to what Manida shows with device update, where you get the reason and then you figure it out.
So I again, there's two things. If we're storing stuff in logs, I mean, I think the output that we saw today is useful. Maybe that's driven by logs. So there's a way to say, get me kind of all the intermediate events. But there also needs to be a API and command to say, hey, get me the last event, if you will. And maybe that get last event is on the OLT, and that gives me all devices, all ONUs associated indirectly with that OLT, the last reason. And then if you want specifically for a single ONU, you can filter it. Yes.
Sure.
But we're in etcd, writing to etcd perspective, we are still going to write the etcd all of the events.
No, I think what I'm suggesting is there's one entry in etcd.
Yeah, one entry, but in order to keep this entry, we should go and overwrite the last one each time.
Yes,
so for each change, we will go to write something in etcd. The only change is we will not, we will keep less data in the etcd, but not
correct
decreasing the query amounts.
Correct. And so the performance implications of those writes still need to be determined. Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yes.
Well, I think those writes will be pretty much the same amount of writes we have today, because as of now, the reason is within the device.
Yeah, that's correct. That shouldn't change.
Perhaps we will, if we write all device update chains, then we may go more than the current situation. Currently, we change the reason field in several places in ONU adapter. But as far as I see in the demo, we will go to update this, say, state change in the etcd more than the reasons. It's not only the reason.
The idea is not to do that in etcd, only the device reason, and everything else goes to logs.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that.
Sure. I'm fine with that.
So just one thought. So this reason field is basically for troubleshooting only, right? Because there's no functional impact of this in the processing, right?
No.
Yeah, correct, Amit.
So because in a real deployment, right, no one is going to check on the reason and then provision the flows or things like that. So I think what Matteo was saying, right? Why don't we just focus on the end-to-end test cases where we provision the flows and see if data path is working fine or ping is working.
But so what me and Girish were coming at before was that this to us was very much needed also in development, testing, and product and like debugging. So
Great.
if something doesn't work, well, maybe in a production environment is not needed and you can just ignore it. But if something doesn't work, you're actually going to go look at it. And maybe you hide it behind verbose -v flag or something, but I would still like to keep it. Am I making sense? I know it's not a production thing, I agree, but it's useful.
Yeah, but no one is saying to completely drop the information, just move it somewhere else.
Oh, fine, sure. I mean, I'm fine doing device reasons, device ID, and just parsing it out of there. That's also okay. Instead of doing one command, you're doing two, but there's no real difference to me. The ATCD stuff is a little bit more important, and some investigation needs to be done there, sure. And that I'll leave to you, Ken and Maninder, how you want to proceed on that information and ATCD storage investigation.
Yeah, because it was also pointed out in this discussion, right, that the reason field is not really updated properly. Because ultimately, I think what we are looking at or trying to figure out is the state of the OMCI state machine, right? But the reason field, if you look into the protos also, is actually supposed to hold the reason of a failure if the device is in a failed state. So because of some reason, I think, or some reason, the reason field is being used to hold the current state of the OMCI state machine. But should we just think about how do we expose that somehow? And that would be a more cleaner approach, right?
Okay.
I didn't really follow that. Are you saying that the update reason needs to be populated only when there's a failure?
No, so my understanding is, and some of the guys who are working closely on the ONU adapter would correct me, right? So my understanding is that the reason field is reflecting the OMCI state machine that is running within the ONU adapter. But as was highlighted, I think Mahir said that, right? That in some cases, the reason field is not getting properly updated also. So should we look at how to expose the state of the OMCI state machine rather than focusing on the reason field? And if that is not needed to be exposed, then maybe we should think about other ways of testing or verifying our tests.
I see what you mean, Amit. Okay, now I get what your point is. Yes, that reason field is partially at least connected to the OMCI state machine. Yes, you're correct. And it is true that in the test for the OpenONU Go, it was used to make sure that the OMCI test, that the OMCI state machine arrived at the proper state for progressing the system forward. So is what you're suggesting reassessing whether we have like a separate command for this OMCI state?
Yeah.
I don't want to get too specific on this reason field. I mean, it's purely helpful for developers. no one else is going to use this in production. mean, if-
we do use them in our tests also, like for validating the device purpose also. Say, taking a normal case, okay, you have brought up the device and then the state say it's initial MIP download, and then you configure a subscriber and you actually check if now they have been moved to the OMCI flows pushed, and then only you progress to the next step. So yes, we do need something similar, if not this field, but maybe some command or something else to get to know what's the exact state of the device so that we can validate that in the test cases.
Yeah, I think even production, I mean, if you're looking to validate that a subscriber is up and running after you push it, understanding that in production, a check could be where the flow is actually pushed, right? That is a valid, I think, production test, not, a verification. So I do think this is beyond just a developer.
Well,
yeah, well, the logs are carrying the complete transition of transactions on that device that we just decided.
Only, well, Girish, only if they're in debug level. I mean, I wouldn't do like all the OMCI transactions in the logs at info level. It's not really needed, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
but again,
Yeah, the system's inherently asynchronous at some level, and so there needs to be a way to kind of verify that an operation is completed, right? When I enable a device, it's not immediately done. Enable returns true, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So you need that mechanism to verify when that quote unquote job is complete.
Yep. So I really want to come out with some thoughts on what are the next step on this, because as of now, it seems that we have not really reached a consensus on what to do. Unless somebody can summarize it for me fairly clearly, because I can't.
Okay, my opinion is we keep a last reason per uni in etcd, and that's the same rights that we're doing now, and there needs to be an API command extension to vOLTHA to query that capability, and all other messages are written to the logs, and so you can get everything if you want, if the log levels are set correctly and you want to search the logs, but you can always get the last reason per uni via etcd in kubectl or kubectl, not kubectl, vOLTHA.
And what about the fact that this is needed for the OMCI? We're just going to trust the last one in a TCD, and we're going to expose it via another command. Is that the right way of looking at this?
Repeat that, please.
The ones we're using right now for the tests, what you're saying is that we're gonna keep, we're gonna just change the command, meaning that, for example, right now we just check the device, and what you're saying is that in the future we check this new command that we have, and that's it.
Yeah, and again, if you're going to check per uni at that point, I think in the test, and so you're going to have to query the last reason per uni.
That's okay. We can do that.
Yeah.
I think it's doable. Okay. Is that fine for everybody? Would everybody agree? And then we would have a check for the others in the logs, and you either filter it via elk stack or some other means. If you're interested.
Maybe we can also make this feature optional. So in development phase, we can use it, but in production, we can disable it. So in etcd, we can get rid of the device updates. and device reason field.
So there would never be any reason field in etcd.
Yes, in production.
That could be a possible thing to do, yes.
I guess is that single write that we're doing today for reason, because under this what I just mentioned, we're not actually increasing the writes. It'd be the same amount of writes. You're talking about eliminating the writes altogether.
Yes, because we already know we have some performance issues over at CD, and maybe that can help.
It just means that you would never be able to get that information through etcd. You'd always have to do a search for the logs, and it'd only be in the logs if you have the debug level set correctly. So it's possible you would just never have it.
Yes. If I can find the same information from the logs, then it's fine.
But it may not be in the logs because depending on the log level setting, it wouldn't make it to the logs.
Yeah, it's a valid point. It's a valid point, yeah.
Okay, so let's in the interest of time, let's wrap it up. I wish that we could have talked about a lot more things, and there was a demo from Matteo for the kind vOLTHA stuff. I think we're gonna push it to next week.
I think one last thing you should write.
If we need kind vOLTHA stuff before next week, can we just hold an impromptu one another day if we want to get the kind vOLTHA stuff working and going forward?
What's everybody's thoughts on that? We can do it another day. Yeah, sure. We can do one ad hoc for the kind vOLTHA stuff. Yes. Surf, you were saying, sorry?
Oh, I was just saying that there's probably one more thing to write over there when you were talking, is whether that's this last thing that was stored to etcd, is that in a separate tree or is it still in the device tree? And I think we said separate, right? Yeah. As for the change from kind to Helm, but well, it's really up to Matteo. If
I'm fine either ways. I mean, the patches are online on Gerrit, so everyone can look them and try them if they want. And those patches are not breaking kind vOLTHA, so there is no harm in moving on with those and keep using kind vOLTHA. So if we want to have another meeting, I'm totally fine to have it this week, but it's probably not a blocker.
Should we say that we really need people to take a look at them and have a demo next week, Theo, or do people feel this is really needed this week?
Is there a timeline to switch over and just kind of deprecate kind vOLTHA and move to the Helm approach?
Well, not yet.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I'm not aware of any new feature required in kind vOLTHA. So I don't think a few more days or a few less days will make a huge difference.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree, Theo. So please do take a look at these two patches. And especially in one of them, I don't remember if it's, I think it's the first one, there is a README file. In that README, there are instructions to deploy all of this here, the way that Matteo created it. So please try and follow this. And if this doesn't work, capture why it didn't work for you and comment on the patch or write a message to Theo on Slack so he and us can work on that. And if you have a workflow that is not fitted in here, please do take a look at it. If you find something that it's annoying because you have to repeat it every time, or you don't like it, just comment in here. We would like as much feedback as possible. So please, please, please do take a look at these reviews within the next few days, and we're going to schedule a demo first thing next week's TST.
So just one thing, if your comments are very long, please use the thread on the Volta Discuss mailing list, because long comments are a little tricky to read in Gerrit.
Yes, thanks, Theo. Okay. So on the outcome of this, Maninder and Ken, can I ask you guys to work on it, and we're going to have a follow-up as soon as you have the code ready?
Okay.
I know thanks, Maninder. I know Ken dropped, but I'll make sure to sync with him about it.
Sure then.
Thanks.
Finally,
yes.
Andrea, what will be the log level that we will write these logs?
Oh, that's a good question. To me, this is info.
Yeah, to me too.
But a very small log at info level. Yes, good. Okay. Well then, thanks everybody. We'll talk again next week. I'll make sure to send out the recording as soon as possible, so if anybody who's interested can actually go take a look at it. Have a nice day or a nice evening, depending where you are. And cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.